Sadly, tragically, just yesterday, the world crossed the threshold where over 500,000 people have died globally from COVID-19. This week's Torah portion is Chukat, and it discusses the aftermath of death, how a Jew who became spiritually, ritually unclean as a result of contact with a corpse would go through a rehabilitation process, spiritually and emotionally and psychologically, through the special commandment, the chok, the super-rational commandment of Para Aduma, the red heifer. And indeed, this week's Torah portion discusses death. Two of the greatest leaders, both the brother and sister of Moses, Aaron and Miriam, pass away. And in the aftermath of the passing of Miriam, we find the story of God telling Moses, when the Jews complained that there's no more water, right after the passing of Miriam, God tells Moses to take the stick and speak to the rock, and the water will come forth. And Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, famously gets angry with the Jews and says, "Listen up, you rebels, Shimuna Hamorim," and strikes the rock in anger. And the water comes forth, but God says, "You failed to sanctify my name because you did not believe in me, and therefore you will not cross over to the land of Israel." And the question on the story are many. The first question is, why didn't Moshe listen to the simple instruction? Speak to the rock, don't hit the rock. The second question is, why did he have this lapse of faith in God? The greatest leader, the greatest prophet, why did he suddenly have this lapse of faith in God? And the third question on the story is, why is it that he was punished so severely that he was not allowed to go into the land of Israel as a result of striking the rock? And Rashi tells us that there is a connection between the story of the water at the rock and the passing of Miriam. You see, Miriam was the one who provided the miracle of the water for the Jews in the desert. And the merit of the fact that she saved her baby brother when she watched over him in the Nile, in the merit of that, God provided water for the Jews throughout the 40 years in the desert in the merit of Miriam, the rock of the well of Miriam. When Miriam died, after having also lost his brother Aaron, Moses was in a deep state of grief and in a state of shock over the loss of both of his siblings. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu is now rallied against by the Jews who say, "Where is the water that Miriam provided? What will happen now?" And listen to the words that Moses says. He says, "Shimuna Hamorim." Now if you look at the words Hamorim, the word you rebels, it's the exact same spelling of HaMiriam. Hey, mem, resh, yud, mem, with different vowels could spell, am I Miriam, or you are rebels. And what Moshe is communicating to the Jews is, I am not Miriam. We lost Miriam. Miriam died. How can I provide water for you at this point? Why are you rallying against me? It was in the merit of my sister. And therefore in anger he strikes the rock. And therefore God says to him, you have lost faith and failed to communicate to the Jewish people the message of faith of God, that yes, our loved ones are taken from us. And yes, we grieve and we are in deep sorrow and pain. However, their lives do not end. Their bodies are gone, but their souls live on eternally. And therefore, in the merit of Miriam, once again, the water will come forth. All you have to do is speak to the rock, and the rock will give forth its water. And this remains an eternal lesson, which is also the lesson of the Para Aduma. We take the ashes of the red heifer, mix it with living waters, to tell us that yes, the body may die, but the souls of our loved ones live on, and they live on spiritually and continue to live with us, because death is a night between 2 days, and death ends a life but not a relationship. The relationship goes on, and yes, the life after life continues in an even higher spiritual realm. And that is what we have to remember. Tragically, the world in the past months lost 500,000 people due to this COVID. But God gathered every one of their souls, and God will keep their souls. All those righteous people who died, we remember them and carry their life and their legacy, and the waters that they provided will continue to nurture us even after their passing, because their souls continue to live with us and inspire each and every one of us. I once heard about a young boy who asked his mom, and he said, "Mom, what happens to us when we die?" And the mother looked at her son and said, "You know how sometimes you fall asleep at the table or on the couch or even on the floor playing with your toys, and the next morning you wake up and you're in your bed. Do you know how that happens? while mommy lovingly picks you up and carries you and puts you into your bed and tucks you in comfortably. So too, she said to her son, when people pass away, God lifts their souls up and carries their souls to their eternal rest, to the place where they belong, and they wake up in God's presence. We pray for the souls of the 500,000 people who died globally, and may they rally in the heavens to bring a cure, to bring therapies, to bring a vaccine, to end this deadly and dreaded disease. And may we only share blessings of happiness and health in the future.